You can see we are talking about irony here. And my question, or the thing that I wanted to know, is if criticism irony, like the one on the left, is interpreted the same way as praise irony as the one on the right. And also, if the gender of the people involved in this ironic interaction does matter. And we wanted to know if adolescents take all these things into account when they interpret irony. So we just very fast, we have two types, in general, two types of irony, and we're going to talk about verbal irony in this case. That is linguistic expressions in which a discrepancy, contradiction, it depends on the author, on the researcher, opposition, negation, or violation of the speaker's expectations is manifested regarding something that happens in the context. So we know that there are a lot of types of irony. We are going to work here. We decided to work with prototypical irony, that is expressions in which the thing that you say is in opposition or in discrepancy in what you really want to say, what you intend. And we also know that there are a lot of functions, that irony has a lot of social functions. And we decided to concentrate on the prototypical function that is criticism, but also in another function that is praise, which is almost the opposite. So we knew with research in adults that gender plays an important role when we are interpreting ironic interactions. There aren't many papers on this, but we found some, and researchers have found that women tend to relate negative emotions to irony, that they say or use irony to emphasize discontent, that they consider irony as a type of criticism, but also that women tend to maintain relationships and avoid hurting their interlocutors, do not take risks of being misunderstood in a conversation, and therefore they are not very prone to use irony, and they are not usually associated with ironic comments. On the other side, we have men who say or that they have positive emotions related to irony, that they use irony to establish social ties. They consider irony as humorous, see conversation as an opportunity to express their power and self-image, take more risks of being misunderstood, and are usually associated with ironic comments. Both women and men use significantly more ironic responses towards men than towards women, and consider verbal irony as a more aggressive form of discourse than literal comments. So we wanted to see if Mexican adolescents also take into account all these things. What happens with verbal irony in language development? We know that it's the type of non-literal language of latest acquisition. Children do not understand irony easily because it involves very complex linguistic skills, but we also know that it's an important factor for social interaction, to be part of a social and pragmatic, it's part of a social and pragmatic knowledge, and it's necessary to proper functioning in different social groups. And we also know that it's frequent in communicative interactions, and it has been very little addressed. So how does the interpretation of verbal irony develop during childhood? As you can see in this chart, when children are about 3 to 5 years old, they interpret irony as a mistake. They say, oh, the speaker is wrong. When they are about 5 to 7, they say, oh, the speaker is lying. I don't know why, but he's lying. When they are about 9 years old, they can interpret irony as ironic, but they're not sure why. So they say, I don't think this is literal, but I'm not sure why. And only until they're 12 years old, they can also explain why irony, why an expression is ironic. And when they are 15, they can say, oh, this person used irony to achieve something. So they can see the social function. But here I'm going to talk a little bit more about when irony is interpreted as a lie. Because what we found in previous research is that many adolescents still interpret irony as a lie in some occasions. And we said, why? Because they are adolescents, they were able to interpret irony in some contexts, but in other ones, they said, no, I think it was a lie. It was a prosocial lie. So I want to explain a little bit more what is happening when we interpret irony. So when children are about 5 to 7, and they have a situation that, like the one that I introduced at first, they know, they hear that Jessica says, you sang so well in the contest. But the child says, okay, Jessica says this, and Jessica knows that Vanessa sang badly. Oh, probably she wants Vanessa to believe that she sang well, so she's lying, yes? When children are 9 years old, they can see more minds, and this has been explained with theory of mind abilities, because children can see Vanessa's, what Vanessa is saying, what Vanessa is thinking, what Jessica is saying, what she is thinking, and also what she is thinking. So the children can see both minds and can say, okay, if they both know that she sang badly in the contest, why is she saying that? Oh, okay, she's saying that because she is disappointed, okay? So children can see both minds and go back to her mind. So in total, so just they can interpret irony as ironic. But what prosocial lie? Can you hear me? Because I think my internet is it okay?
It's okay, not great,
Okay.
but definitely okay.
Thank you, thank you. So when adolescents see irony as a prosocial lie, which is different than the lie that I explained before, because this is a prosocial lie, like a nice lie. There it happens something similar like in the irony, because this person says, you sang so well in the contest, but thinks that she didn't sing well. And both people know, both girls know that she didn't sing well, but why is she saying this? Oh, okay, she's saying this because she doesn't want to hurt her feelings. So in this interpretation, you have to take into account the three minds, but you interpret it differently, because on the first on the ironic possibility, you use the irony to criticize the other person and in this one, you use it to protect the other person. In this case, you use Jessica. Jessica wants Vanessa to think that Vanessa didn't do so badly, not to hurt her feelings. So if you see, there are also these three minds that you have to take into account, but the use of the expression is different. In irony is to say something about yourself. In the prosocial lie is to protect the other one. So we wanted to see if this social function of irony, the one that I stated at first, criticism or praise, influence the interpretation of irony as a prosocial lie, and if the gender of the participants is important in this case. We had 20 Mexican adolescents aged 12 and 17 Mexican adolescents aged 15 in our sample, and they all had typical linguistic and cognitive development. They were native speakers of Mexican Spanish, no problems in reading, in academics, and they passed an irony interpretation screening instrument because we have found that even adults sometimes don't understand irony. So they had to pass this irony screening instrument with at least 75% accuracy. And we had 8 ironic stories, 4 with criticism, 4 with praise, in written format because we didn't want the intonation to play a role here. They were presented randomly. And after each story, we had an interview with these adolescents with a script, and we asked them things like this. Why did the ironist say this ironic phrase? They say this, we didn't say that it was ironic. What do you think he or she meant? How do you know it? What gave you the clue? Could she or he have said it in another way? Why? If this person had said it in front of a group of female friends or male friends instead of this one, would it be more acceptable? Why? And if this person was a man or a woman, would it have been more acceptable, and why? These are the 8 stories. As you can see, we had 4 with criticism, 4 with praise, and all the possibilities. And how did we analyze the ironic interpretation? There were 5 types of answers. The type A, participants interpreted the ironic statement as literal. On the answer B, they interpreted the ironic statement as ironic, but they were not able to say why. On the type C, they said that it was ironic, and they could focus on the communicative function of irony. On type D, it was they had 2 possibilities, and they stated 2 possibilities. They said, oh, maybe it's ironic because the person wants to do this, but I'm not sure. And maybe it's like a prosocial lie. It's not ironic, and they wanted to protect the other person. And type D was when the adolescent could state everything and why it was ironic and give good arguments. So I'm going to focus only on the D types because we were trying to see why they use this interpretation of prosocial lie. And what did we find? We found that in the interpretation of irony as a prosocial lie by age and social function, when we compared criticism, they say that they it presented more this kind of answer as a prosocialized in criticism. But when they are 15, they presented more when in praise. So this was kind of strange because we said, okay, 12 years old don't understand so much the pragmatic intentions behind.
3 minutes.
What happened in yes?
3 minutes.
Thank you. In the interpretation as a prosocialized by gender, as you can see here, there are a greater interpretation of irony as a prosocial lie in front of a female audience and more as irony in front of a male audience, which was what we were expecting. What happened in our analysis by gender of the interlocutors for both age groups? Prosocial lie was more frequent between females and irony between males, which was also what we were thinking it was going to happen. So if we analyze the social function of irony, when adolescents are 12 years old, they interpret more irony as, there is a more interpretation as prosocial lie in ironic criticism, but 15-year-olds have more interpretation as prosocial lies in ironic praise. And because praise and prosocial lie are positive linguistic behaviors, we think that 15 years old adolescents are better equipped to take into account pragmatic factors involving irony than 12 years old, which is what we expected. And if we analyze gender, there is more interpretation as a prosocial lie in front of women and between women. And so our adolescents are aware of the importance of the gender of the participants in an ironic event since the age of 12. What can we conclude out of this? That since the age of 12, adolescents are aware that irony is less tolerated among women than among men in Mexican interactions, as it has been found in other countries. And from the age of 15, they observe that if irony is used as praise, it is more likely to occur among women. And so my first question, the title of my presentation, that was, are women allowed to be ironic or do they have to lie? It seems that Mexican adolescents, both female and male, because there were no differences, expect women to use irony less than men and to use more prosocial lies than men. And also that the knowledge of all these pragmatic factors associated with social function of irony and gender of the participants in an ironic event continues to develop during adolescence. And I would like to thank my colleague Gloria Avesilla and my student Abril Castillo for their help in this investigation, in this research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
As usual, your research is absolutely interesting. I don't know what to make of the results, but I need to think about it. But that's good.
Thank you. It was a surprise because we hadn't taken gender into account, but it's really important. At least in Mexico, it's gender, and I didn't have time to say this, but we also found that adolescents say that gender doesn't matter, because we also asked them, do you think that it's different if a woman or a man said, oh, of course not, because we all have the same rights and it doesn't matter. But when you study their interpretation, it is clear that gender does matter.
Other questions or comments? Comment or question by Anthony. In bullying, someone can be mocked with an ambiguous statement that is meant to be interpreted as praise by the victim and as mockery by the bullies. is this split message reflected in your interpretations?
Yes, adolescents, many of them said things like that. Oh, but only when there were men interacting and not when there were women. So it's also, I have worked with adolescents like 24, 25 years, and many of the adolescents that are bullies will say things like that. Oh, no, it wasn't with a bad intention. No, it was nice. And I think bullying is something that happens a lot with irony, but only between males. And that interpretation was also present in our in the things that our adolescents said. Thank you for your comment. Research on this.
Chris, the movie Mean Girls showcased a lot of female bullying, apparently involving humor.
Yes, that movie, my daughters love that movie, and yes, I'm sure it has a lot of that. Yes, thank you.
We have a few minutes left. Let me remark, if you don't have the latest schedule, Sal posted it in the chat so that you have the speaker order.
You may not be able to see it if you came in after I posted it. So let me repost it just to be.
Yeah, there was a small change in this session. Comments I'm stumbling on the syntax. Where the comments were interpreted as ironic, was it seen as negative always, or was it mixed?
I think it was when the comments were interpreted as ironic. Okay, no, sometimes they said things like they interpreted them as ironic and said things like they can say that because they are friends and he's trying to be humorous, but only when, well, primarily when there were men interacting. When there were women, they used to say, no, they are friends. They are like girlfriends, so they have to be nice to each other. It can't be ironic. I don't think so. So it has to be that she is lying to her friend so that she doesn't feel bad.